2 years ago, the CEO Action Group set out to promote workplace diversity and inclusion in U.S. companies. Joining us right now to talk about its latest efforts on its 2-year anniversary is John Rogers. He is the chairman, CEO, and CIO of Ariel Investments. And Tim Ryan, who is U.S. chairman and senior partner at PwC. And gentlemen, thank you both for being here today. Tim, let's just talk a little bit about what this group is, what you saw and why you created it.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. So 2 years ago, what we saw is a big opportunity for CEOs. Well, we were all doing a lot at our companies to step up the game, to make inclusion a reality in the workplace. And we went specifically after CEOs, and we chose the word action because CEOs get stuff done. They have a remarkable ability to make things happen, and we need action, and we need more action. So we asked CEOs to make a commitment to make inclusion more of a reality in the workplace.
When you say we, you mean you, because you are literally on the road all the time, almost a traveling salesman meeting with all these companies. Yes. What did you do? How did you bring it up?
Look, in the early days, what we did is we said this has to be a group effort. So while I did have the privilege of starting it, we got a small group of CEOs together and we said this is not a competitive issue. Let's come together and see if we can all raise our game. Because what we know is if we get inclusion to be more of a reality, we all win. Not only our businesses, but society as overall. So what I did is started reaching out to CEOs saying this is something we can do together to raise our game. And I was very blessed to have a lot of people jump in and help.
When you say inclusivity, what does that mean?
So look, the big thing that we see is the opportunity to make workplaces more inclusive. So the more we have a better understanding of what it's like to be a minority in the workplace, what it's like to be a woman in the workplace, the more we understand, the better we can help each other. So we started foundationally, how do we make sure we all understand what it's like when we come to work? And what we've found is the more we talk about it, the more progress we're making.
John, as an investor, what's this mean to you?
Well, it's really important. We tell people all the time that we want to invest in 21st century companies that are growing. If their management team and their boards look like 1940s companies, we can't invest in those types of companies.
Why?
It means they're backward-looking, not forward thinkers.
What do you see in companies that actually have more inclusivity in terms of their returns? Does it make a difference?
Well, I think it really does make a difference. You bring more creative ideas, you bring diverse perspectives. That's really, really important. Understanding of the diverse customer base, that's critical. And so we always say, baseball became a better sport once Jackie Robinson started to play. So you need to make sure you create that environment where all the best talent will come and join your organization.
In terms of what you're asking companies to do, there's a new plank that you're kind of adding this time around, and that's to make boards look a little more inclusive too?
Yeah, so this is our 2nd year anniversary, and what we're announcing today in connection with the 2nd anniversary is a 4th pledge. And the 4th pledge is we're asking CEOs and their boards to commit to annually doing a diversity inclusion strategic plan where they'll actually prepare a plan that has everything from measurement to programs that you'll have in place, accountability, and that plan is reviewed not only by the CEO but by the board as well, and there's oversight around it.
And you're not looking for exact numbers or perfect commitments from any of these companies. It's just kind of a goal.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing that, Becky, is we have today 650 CEOs that have made the commitment to sign up. And as you can imagine, there's a wide range of practice at those companies. So instead of setting clear targets, what we're doing is setting broad commitments. And this 4th commitment is a way for every company to go from here to here, but move at their pace.
John, there have been states and localities that have tried to make rules. I think of California saying that you have to have a certain number of women either on the board or in companies. And the same thing happened in Chicago. But that rule was kind of watered down to the point where it wasn't going to be numbers. It was more of a statement saying this. You defended that. You're okay with that. Why is that?
Well, I think it was a starting point. We had to start somewhere. And so I think in Illinois now where all the companies will have to really expose the data and have it out there, all of a sudden I think that people will be able to take that data and put pressure on those companies that haven't moved into the 21st century to do the right thing. We saw that in California where Black Enterprise did a great job of exposing the lack of diversity in Silicon Valley. Reverend Jackson took that information, went to the annual meetings, and all of a sudden those companies started having diverse boards for the first time because the data had exposed what was happening in Silicon Valley.
Tim, are there companies that said no when you reached out to them and said, would you like to sign on with us?
In the early days, there were a lot of companies that questioned, why should I do this? I'm doing a lot of good things within my four walls. Why join a broader commitment? Over time, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of companies join. So I would say in the early days, there was a little skepticism of why should I join this group?
Early days was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you got it. It's amazing. And that's what we're really proud of. And just to give you a sense, Becky, 650 CEOs, we now have a connected network of over 2,000 executives, CEOs, CHROs, CDOs who can share best practices. We have 600 best practices on a public database anybody can go look at, ceoaction.com, and we're making free resources available.
Well, that's interesting because what I've heard back from companies sometimes when kind of pushed on this is we can't find qualified applicants. Right. What do you say to that? What do you tell them when they say that?
So without a doubt, we believe that's a false statement. Like, in other words, the reality is the talent is out there. And as John talked about, we know when we get more inclusive teams, we win. We may have to look in different places, that talent, but most places we have to start is within the four walls of our companies and our organizations. What we know is that talent exists. We've got to find a way to nurture it up at this point.
John, how much of it is building networks and finding those people?
I think it can be done. One of the things that we do is that when we push our companies in the small and mid-cap space to have diverse boards for the first time, we often help the CEOs source talent. We send them names of talented people we've met over the years, and we also make sure we're recommending people, women and people of color who have a history of fighting for civil rights, who are willing to push forward and make a difference. And I think that's why the work that PwC is doing is so important, is to create a welcoming environment so those diverse directors and leaders can be themselves and push for more inclusion once they're there in the boardroom.
What's the biggest hurdle to the movement at this point?
I would say the biggest hurdle right now is making sure we don't give up. We've had a great 2 years, but we need to continue. This is the long game, but we need to make sure we're making incremental progress. And what I worry about is that there's a lot of distractions out there in the world when you look at trade and businesses. This is part and parcel. The reality is that we got to keep going at this point and not give up, even though we've made some great progress.